And we're back here once again with another episode of the Cloud9 podcast, season 17, episode 6. So I hope you guys had a great day, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week that is ahead of you. And in this episode of the Cloud9 podcast, we are going to be talking about the NBA 2025-2026 season, with starting off with, several things that we missed out on because Noops Christensen actually left me like my dad. But to be fair, it wasn't because he was mad at me. What ended up happening was basically we were going to do the show that week. We even set it up, but then you ended up getting really sick.
Yeah, that flu that everyone has had, and it was, apologies to everybody, but you didn't want to hear my voice. I was in no shape to be talking anywhere, let alone here.
Yeah, and then also that week I had, I think, so many shows booked. I was like, I don't even know if I could even do the show because I had because as you know me, I try to schedule all my stuff like before the shows that I always like to do, and I was so booked that week. And then we tried to do it last week, but Noops, he was on vacation. He went on vacation. God damn.
Well, I wasn't even on vacation. I happened to be in San Diego. One of the things I do is sort of a side business. I am a contract consultant for independent pharmacies, and I'll give you my 2-minute thing on independent pharmacies. Any pharmacy that's not CVS, Rite Aid, or Walgreens is run by some poor schmuck that went to school to be a chemist and a healthcare worker, and now runs a 7-Eleven and gets hosed by insurance companies every day. And what I'll tell you is, if you are someone that has a prescription, if you take medicine every day, if it's a brand prescription, please take it to CVS. They will lose money on that prescription, and they deserve to lose money on that prescription. If you want to know why, slide in the DMs and I'll give you all the nitty gritty. If you have a generic prescription, please take it to your local independent pharmacy. This is a business in your town, in your community that wants to be part of that community. They deserve the chance to be profitable, and I'll end it with that.
Also, we'll be covering Luka Doncic, underachieving, as the media calls it. Jaylen Brown did nothing, and the tanking problem. Also, I want to let you guys know, we're going to try to do this as often as we can. I know you guys really liked that last episode that we did with Noops, where he gave his origin story, actually, because I was looking for a guy, a guy that can be that co-host, Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker kind of vibe. Talk about the NBA. Actually, I know there's First Take. I know there's all these other shows out there, but this is where you get the real opinions at. No bias at all with the Lakers here.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, am I Jackie Chan or Chris Tucker?
I think you're Chris Tucker.
That makes you Jackie Chan. I'm cool with that. I can try.
So, what's crazy is the last time that we had your first episode here, which was your origin story episode. And if you guys haven't seen that one, go check that out so you guys can understand Noops' philosophy with the game and how he got into basketball and betting and all this other stuff. It was a good episode, actually. If I do say so myself, because I did make it myself.
I won't disagree.
So last time we talked, the trade deadline window was about, I think, a week or two prior to that, actually. And there was a lot of trades that ended up happening. And I'm at this point now with the trade window where, unless it's like a guaranteed one, like a certain player just isn't vibing with a certain organization that they're on, like the Jonathan Kuminga situation with the Warriors. Like we all knew he was going to leave. It was like, it's like an open secret at that point. Like the whole thing with Giannis, actually, I will just say this to people here. Do you guys remember Tom Brady when he was actually in the NFL, when there was rumors that he was actually going to be choosing between, I don't know how the second option ever appeared. It was between the Buccaneers and the Raiders. And the Raiders actually almost were going to shell out the big bucks to get Tom Brady. And people were like, why would Tom Brady go there? Well, to be fair, they have actually one of the biggest fan bases in the NFL still to this day, despite being absolutely just disgusting for checks notes like almost 30 years. But I want you guys to understand, where do these rumors come from? A lot of people actually get where these rumors come from. They come from one or two sources. They either come from the actual publisher themselves, or they come from the agent of the person. So either Tom Brady leaks it himself through an anonymous person, so like a friend of his, and then his friend will leak it to someone else, or his agent does that. And that creates, how would you say this though? Controversy of some sort, where people talk about it and they go, oh my God, Tom Brady, the legendary Patriots quarterback, he's going to join the Raiders. Then he gets social media attention. And then that puts pressure on the Buccaneers to up their offer to get him. So then they see that all these Raider fans and all these Raider people, they want Tom Brady. We'll shell out big bucks for him. Buccaneers go, whoa, I'm seeing all the social media attention. I want to get Tom Brady now. See, these things are not like organic as you guys think. Some of the stuff is very, very meticulously, very methodically done, actually. I don't believe for a second these guys don't look at Twitter and social media. There's no way. There's no way. Everyone does it. They're a person like you and me. They put on their pants the same way me and you do. These people look at social media. You can tell, by the way, Jonathan Kuminga was getting talked about. He was getting talked about like he was some fucking third string on like the Wizards bench or something. Like he's not a bad player. I don't know. Get what people think. Kim saying he's achieving now on the Hawks. Gee, I wonder why. One can only think it, right?
There's just too much money at play here. We're not talking about millions of dollars or even tens of millions of dollars. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And when that's at play, people do whatever they can to stoke the fires. So whenever there is reporting about a trade, try to think about it from the lens of, is this from the team that controls the player? Is this from the player in his camp? Is this from a team that might possibly want them? And I think that will color a lot of kind of what was going on. And specifically going back to the Giannis trade talk, obviously he is still a Milwaukee Buck. I think a lot of that was number one, teams that want Giannis trying to stir up some stuff to make it seem like he was available. I think it was also came from the Bucks, who are at an opportunity in a moment in their franchise where if they're going to trade Giannis, it has to be this year or maybe this offseason. If they're going to get the maximum return, if they're going to take advantage of the opportunity in front of them. And it's hard to tell from Giannis specifically, someone who has actually been, I think, very thoughtful about how he presents himself in press conferences, for him to both say things like, I never asked to be traded, but I want to be on a winner, whether it's here or not. And there's a lot there. But again, when you're reading about this stuff, take everything with a huge grain of salt. And while you're reading it, try to think about who would benefit best from it and work your way backwards from there.
Yeah. Also, people need to understand it's something that I didn't grasp as a concept a long time ago until I actually heard an owner of someone talk about this very specific thing. So, like, let's say I'm the Lakers and you're the Sixers, and let's say hypothetically you have three really all right players. But they're overachieving. They're doing very, very good. And I have one star player, even though he just is getting us over the bench and he's winning us everything, or not just winning everything, keeping us relatively even with your team. A lot of people would go, well, if your team is doing better than mine, why don't you guys just go and get my player? A lot of people never forget the second step. How does that benefit me giving up my best player? Yes, in theory, if I gave you my best player, now your team is going to have an extra edge over me, and he might actually do better in his career. How does that benefit me in the momentary? That doesn't, though. What they're doing is they're hoping like, oh, these trades are just like this weird monolith where if a player just wants to go, they just go, and it's like, no. Actually, in LeBron's contract, he has a no trade clause. I think he made sure that was in there at a certain point, and that's the moment in time, because he realized if he ever started declining, they could just get rid of him. He has it in his contract where it doesn't happen that way. And people need to understand, Giannis is their central piece. He would be like the reason why you'd want to go there to play with someone like that. He's your attraction. If they don't have him, because before they ever had him, they were pretty much just kind of like nothing, if we're being completely honest here, you know?
Yeah, to maybe even take a further step back, Giannis is not only the best player on the Bucks, he's one of the 3 to 5 best players in the NBA. He is someone who, as soon as you acquire him, your team immediately enters the conversation of possibly being a championship level team. And one of the toughest parts about being an NBA team is there are cycles to all of this. If you go back and look through history, there are very few examples of teams that are dominant for more than 3 to 4 years. And a lot of it just comes down to the NBA is a league with a hard salary cap. And at a certain point, you can only pay so many guys, and it's hard to sort of backfill those positions. So a lot of times when you see a team like Milwaukee that's thinking about trading Giannis, this is arguably the most valuable asset in their franchise history. Giannis is their chance to be a championship contender or get the assets they want to become a championship contender. And that means great draft picks or really good young players and things like that. And there just doesn't seem to be that opportunity on the table. You know, you mentioned Kuminga before. There was definitely a chance if the Bucks wanted, they could have gotten Kuminga and some picks from the Warriors for Giannis. That's just not kind of where they are. And I think another big thing about it too is you got to think about Milwaukee. It is a small market town. It is a town where if the Bucks are out of the playoffs, people aren't going. If the Knicks are bad, people will go. If the Lakers are bad, people will go. If Boston's bad, people will go. We've seen this over the past. If the Bucks are bad, no one is showing up. So giving up Giannis is not just giving up your chance to be good. There's so much money tied to that. There's so much opportunity tied to that. So if they're going to move Giannis, it needs to be for an incredible deal that makes it obvious that either they got some young players back with a lot of upside or draft picks that can turn into something that will draw people back and give them another chance to open up a championship window.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the average viewers that see this, and keep in mind, I think Giannis is very good too. We all agree that he's good, but
Undeniable.
but the problem is that, like, if he's the only central piece to that organization, and they know that pretty much without him, we have no real attraction. Like you said before, a thing that we should go over for average person to understand this: why would someone go to Los Angeles if they are not even good? Well, there's opportunities there. There could be like movie deals. There could be you get sponsors. There's like there's just more bigger market cap
Yes.
and share with a lot of different opportunities that you have. There's a reason why LeBron went to the Lakers when he did after the Cavaliers. There's a reason why. And keep in mind, he ended up getting Space Jam. He has these businesses now. He got millions of dollars. He has this big house and everything. You don't really get that in Milwaukee. Also, I heard weather's a big factor. It's really cold.
Yeah.
I have some viewers that are actually in that area. They're freezing up there. Hey, no one's trying to be freezing their ass off.
Athletes are human beings, and it's a lot more fun. With all due respect to Milwaukee, a town I like, I have family out there I go visit. Los Angeles is a lot more fun. New York is a lot more fun than Milwaukee. It's just true.
Is it actually really, really freezing out there?
This time of year, yeah, so certain times of the year, it's brutal. And it's one of those things where, again, you're getting up every day. It's 10, 15, 20 degrees. I don't know if you ever see the movie Fargo. It's a Coen Brothers movie where pretty much the whole movie is in snow and the gray sky. Milwaukee, Wisconsin's like that a lot of times of the year. And again, it's like November through February, March. But you go there during the spring, summer, fall, it's gorgeous. It's overwhelmingly beautiful. You're right near the lake. There's all sorts of good stuff going on. And it's just a fun town. Again, if you like drinking beer and eating sausage and just kind of hanging out, Brewers games are great. Again, the Bucks has a really good team. So it is a great town. I enjoy it, but it's not LA. It's not New York. And like you said, it's not just the livability of those places, it's the opportunities on top of that. One of the things the NBA has is a max salary for the best player. That means you are limited to a certain amount of money you could make on no matter what team you are. So how do you make more money on top of that? You go to LA and you get better advertisement deals. You go to New York, you get better advertisement deals or better chances to get involved with businesses. Again, not that you can't get advertisement deals in Milwaukee or open businesses in Milwaukee, but they're just going to do better in certain cities. So if you look at the long history of the league, big cities acquire big free agents. And that's one of the things, too, with Milwaukee. Trading Giannis is not just giving up this great player. It's going to be so hard for them to get another one. They put through all this work and effort to finally get somebody. And it's really tough to move forward from that, knowing how hard it is to get the next guy who can be the guy.
True. And I think a lot of people have to understand these guys, to be fair, if they ever decided to, do something else in their life, like they want to do another adventure in their life, their social media presence, as we know with this day and age, matters. Like Jaylen Brown literally put in a tweet yesterday after he got thrown out of the game, and it got 7 million impressions in 5 minutes. So these guys actually could, if they ever just did anything out, like if Giannis wanted to, I don't know, be in warehousing business, he could be like, hey, I'm retiring from the NBA. I have a warehouse business. Do you know how much views his tweets will get? He could like they could seriously leverage their social media presence into any other ventures they have in their, next life after their NBA careers are over. And I think that's the thing that you brought up, which is very important too. You go to someone like the Lakers, everyone's going to be talking about you. You say, like, I don't know, I have a new dog. ESPN's, oh my God, he has a new dog.
Right, exactly. You lead ESPN every day. That's another great point. ESPN, it doesn't matter if the Lakers or the Cowboys are good or bad. That's what they're talking about every day.
Feels bad for Stephen A. Smith because he loves the Knicks.
I don't feel bad for Stephen A. Smith. And if you want to, we can get into that. But he's someone that I'm surprised gets paid as much to do what he does as he does.
Yeah, I think people got to understand there's a lot of logistics and a lot of geographical potential with a lot of this stuff. I mean, yesterday, it's one of those things where, actually, let's get into it because it bothered me yesterday. I think the refs ruined this game so bad. It's one of these things where, dude, you've seen it on social media. What is the number one thing why people always say they stop watching? They feel like, and this has been said when I was a little boy, when I was watching the games, they feel, it's a caption that goes like this: I feel like it's rigged. It's getting to a point now where it's, oh my goodness, like just this year when it first started for this season, didn't the Portland Trailblazers head coach just get like almost in trouble for that too, with another ring of guys allegedly in Minecraft said by a guy named MSK?
So that particularly didn't involve the refs. That was part of a gambling scandal. It turns out Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, was inviting people to rigged poker games. The mafia, and again, you can find this all. It's the trials that are going. There are public files you can read. It turns out the Italian mafia, or mob, if you will, was hosting poker games where they literally had tables where they could see underneath into what the cards were and things like that. Rigged poker games. And Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, was recruiting people to go to those games. So again, a little different. As far as the referees go, the biggest scandal in history, Tim Donaghy, and if you're not familiar with, for about a year and a half, sports bettors start to notice there was a lot of weird line movements with games involving a referee named Tim Donaghy, and he absolutely fixed games, made tons of money doing it, eventually got caught for doing it, and you can read all sorts of stuff about him, wrote a book about it. And what I will say about refereeing in general is it's a complaint for every sport. It's a problem in every single sport. NFL fans complain about referees. Major League Baseball fans are constantly complaining about ball and strike calls and things like that. Hockey officials and things like that. But in the NBA, one of the problems is the game stops when a referee makes a call. One of the most beautiful parts about basketball, and especially if you watch a lot of international basketball, is the flow of the game when guys are playing and playing and playing. And it's just a bummer whether the call is right or wrong. All of a sudden, there's a whistle and we stopped. And no one's playing basketball. And you think about other sports, football, the game stops every play. So when a referee stops the game, it's a little bit less of a bummer. You think about baseball, again, it's kind of a stop and go sport. Even soccer, the way soccer officials referee the games, they have what's called advantage, where if a referee wants to make a call, he can pause making that call and let the game go on until it's a kind of a natural stopping point. That's not how the NBA works. And it's particularly rough at the end of these games where they're trying to review things. And it's one of those things, I've learned to deal with it. I would rather try to get this stuff right. I know the review process is really tough, but in big games, I think it matters. And at the same time, how hard is it to call an NBA game, for God's sakes? These guys are moving so fast. There's so much going on. So I get it. And the referees have definitely bummed me out. I've definitely been part of a lot of conversations growing up with my dad, watching basketball, complaining about referees, but it's a problem in every sport. I just think, again, from the NBA's biggest problem is we have to find more ways to get uninterrupted game action. We have to find more ways to get 3, 4, 5, 6-minute stretches where there's uninterrupted basketball, because that's what people want to watch. And again, a lot of other sports, an NFL game is 60 minutes on the clock. You only get about 10 minutes of football. Major League Baseball, you see a similar phenomenon, about 2.5, 3 hours of gameplay, maybe 45 minutes of actual baseball. The NBA, it's just so tough, and it's hard to keep that momentum going. So I get what you're saying. I guess maybe what it comes down to, MSK, is like, we're not getting rid of referees. We're just not. We're not going to change that. They're going to be around forever. Yeah. So I might as well let it go and get used to it.
Yeah, that's the same thing that I wanted to, basically, let's say, what's the thing people do when they launch themselves off those boards to dive? Oh my God. There's a word for it when you launch off a board and go and start swimming. Oh my goodness. Words are escaping me right now. I'm not
Jump off the diving board?
There we go. I wanted to dive board into a next topic. See, okay. All right. I'm doing a bit. It's not working. But no, like, that's the same thing for me when it comes to all these record breaking. Like, people brought up, I know about the ban thing. I do. It's just, that's how I kind of thinking about my brain too. We've had the NBA around for forever at this point. There's gonna be weird ways they're going to want to see other records broken. Like, I don't understand. Michael Jordan is not just the greatest of all time for many different reasons. Many different reasons he's the greatest because his stats actually reflect that. People like Wilt Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, all these legendary players. At some point, I don't know if it's purposeful. It feels like they're trying to get another person above someone legendary. It always feels like that. That's what it feels like for that Bam Tech thing. It feels like they just wanted to have it broken for a specific reason,
So for those of you unfamiliar, Bam Adebayo scored 83 points last night, shooting a lot of free throws. I'm going to pull up the box score right now because it was a lot of free throws against a team in Washington that is actively trying to lose games. We'll get to the tanking thing in a little bit, I'm sure. But I always think back to Steve Kerr was doing a press conference where somebody talked to him, and real quick. So Bam Adebayo shot 43 free throws last night, which is just an outrageous number. I'm not sure if that's the NBA record for free throws, but it's an outrageous number. But I watched that game and I went back and watched it. I didn't see any foul calls that looked illegitimate. And there's a couple things at play here. Number one, people in the NBA, for some reason, think that older players were better. for some reason, the NBA is the only sport where athletes get worse. And Steve Kerr talked about this. He was in a press conference, some talked about like, who's the greatest player of all time? I was like, of course it's George Mikan, because in the NBA, players only get worse. For those of you who don't know, George Mikan was the first great NBA player who was on the Minnesota Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers used to be in Minnesota. They moved. He's like, George Mikan was better than Wilt Chamberlain, was better than Kareem, who was better than Michael Jordan, who was better than Kobe, who was better than so-and-so. And it's a joke, of course. And it's something where in the NBA, and maybe this happens in other sports, I just spend more time talking to NBA fans. It was always better. 90s basketball was better. Watching people get punched in the face and seeing only 180 points in a game was better.
Yeah.
But
watching Shaq dunk on someone and his nuts were hanging in that guy's face. Yep. Peak basketball right there.
Well, it's again, I like that, but it's always about growing. And the second thing is, people only seem to attack what just happened recently. So one of the big things everybody said about Bam was, well, they're playing a bunch of points. Why was he playing in the fourth quarter? Why was Kobe playing in the fourth quarter? With all due respect to Kobe Bryant fans, there was no reason for him to be in that game in the fourth quarter. You go back to Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100 points. And this is a game that's not on tape. It was before we recorded everything. But if you go back and read articles from then, you read books about it, both teams in the fourth quarter were actively trying to get Wilt 100 points because they realized it'd be cool if Wilt scored 100 points.
Yeah.
Anytime something like this happens, there's always some way we can nitpick it. And it just bums me out that instead of trying to enjoy the fact that Bam Adebayo, someone who, if you had to make a list of players who would score 40 or 50 points, he wouldn't be in your first 100 picks. Would score 83. Let's just enjoy the accomplishment. What a novel idea. Let's throw our hands up and enjoy the accomplishment instead of keep trying to needle it and make fun of it and dig down on it with all this imperfect information.
Yeah, for me, it basically just boils down to, if the game's gonna, because the game's not going anywhere anytime soon, or pretty much ever, right? It's gonna be here even long after we're doing this show. Like, it's gonna be here when your kids, maybe our kids do this show together, like, oh, that'd be fucking crazy, But it's one of these things where I just understand, because like they'll always on Facebook, it'll be really bad. But hey, Jordan's record got passed. Guys, Jordan hasn't been in the league in forever. Do people just view these things?
He doesn't hold many records. The only record he holds is most consecutive finals without a loss. Like, if you go back and look, he doesn't have a lot of points records, defensive records, things like that. And that's the other thing too. Like, so what? He scored 83 points in a game. And that happened. It's March 11th. Like, who cares? Yeah. Like, it's fun. Yeah. He scored 83 points. That's great. What a wonderful accomplishment. Like, I'd rather him score 40 points in a playoff game. You know what I mean?
Right. It's just one of these things where I don't understand. The more the years go by, there's higher chances these records get broken. And keep in mind, that just shows you how legendary that guy was, because it took this many years for it finally to get overachieved. Keep in mind, just because Bam did that last night, how in the world does that devalue Kobe in people's brains? I don't get why the other one can't apply. It's like, hey, even if you don't like what happened, that shouldn't devalue Kobe's legacy. Keep in mind, it's that actually only more might fight. That only more might allow you to be like, wait a minute, I enjoyed that guy just as much. See, it doesn't always have to be a doom and gloom thing. Even if you don't like the result, I did not like the result of the Celtics team last night when Jaylen Brown got thrown out. But it's one of those things where people have to understand there's different times to be mad at something, right? When I get mad at the Lakers for playing DeAndre Ayton over fucking guy, the other guy. Good Lord, Jackson Hayes. I think Jackson Hayes is a better big man because DeAndre Ayton is, as you said, he's turning into a guy. They don't want him to be. It's like, we know there's problems here. It's like, might as well just say we have issues. Might as well just put him out there, right, DeAndre? But it's like, you have to always going to take the good with the bad. And I feel like a lot of people don't even really do this. Like, they just are only catapulting themselves in completely 100% negative territory, no nuance whatsoever. Guys, Wempiana plays kind of just like those guys in the years you like. Big, tall, dunks, three-point shooting, key shooting, everything. Is he not? Could he not compete with Wilt Chamberlain? Come on, Eric. Come on.
So you struck on a big problem that my wife is actually getting her PhD in communications and media. And one of the things she's studying is fandom. And if you go back and look, one of the things that studies over the years have proven is most people that follow someone do not follow them to support them. They follow them to fact check them or to attack them or to prove when they're wrong and things like that. Yeah. And another way to say it is, if you look at the way a lot of algorithms work, negativity travels. Negativity draws more reactions. So that's what kind of spreads faster. And it's just one of the tough things about a lot of these dialogues. And again, what I would say is I'd ask anybody listen to this, try to respond to positive stuff as often as you reply to negative stuff. And let's just try to enjoy what's going on. Like you said, there's constantly changes in what's going on. Records were made to be broken. There are some records that probably won't be broken, but most of them, especially with the way the NBA game is growing, will probably get blown out at some point. And again, let's just be excited. I will say, though, you mentioned DeAndre, and I can't remember if I told you this last show or not, but did you know that when DeAndre Ayton was drafted, he was in an interview, and they asked him, what is your definition of success? And his definition was to sign a second contract. How do you feel about that? Does he strike you as someone who maybe that was his goal, and since he signed his second contract, maybe it makes sense that when he was in Portland, he didn't go to a game because it was too icy out, or he couldn't get a ride. I'm trying to remember some of the other excuses. DeAndre specifically strikes me as someone that was really obvious, and I'm always surprised people are so surprised. He told us, he warned us.
It's just crazy to think about. I remember that quote because, to factor in, there's a team guys called, I know you guys like Michael Jordan a lot. The Chicago Bulls are still around despite being pretty much mediocre to mid-table. Outside of Derek Love,
one of the most poorly run franchises for the last 20 years.
There's that one guy, Love, that was they had Love a while ago, and they had Paul Gasol at one point. That one, I forget his name. Oh my God, they lost
Derrick Rose.
They had Derrick Rose, did they? At one point.
So yeah, Derrick Rose, Love, and the other guys, Gasol. I don't think they ever had a Gasol or Kevin Love, but the best team they had,
Derrick Rose. Oh my God,
it was Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, Luol Deng. I'm trying to remember, there was another guy on that team that was really solid. But since then, basically, for everybody who knows, the worst thing you'd be in the NBA is in the middle. You either want to be in the playoffs competing every year, or you want to be at the bottom acquiring good draft picks. The Bulls have been basically just out of the lottery every year for like the last 10, 12 years. They've been 41 and 44, or 42 and 42. It's just been brutal for a franchise. Again, you're talking about one of the biggest markets in the world, one of the best known brands in the world. No matter where you go in the world, someone somewhere is wearing a Bulls jersey. And it's just depressing, again, to not see that. Again, if you have parallels to other sports, like imagine the Steelers are really mediocre for 25, 30 years. Imagine that the Dodgers were bad for a long, long time. Imagine, if you're a soccer fan, like Liverpool, Man United were bad. And it happens from time to time, but this Bulls run, it's just gross.
Yeah, I remember I think they ended up trading one of their best players. It was that one black guy. I forgot his name. He had the long hair. Oh my God, he was very good for them. And I think he got traded to like the Hornets or something. I forget his name. Oh my God.
I'm drawing a blank. It's been a long while since the Bulls had a really great player. Again, you'd have to go back to those Derrick Rose teams. And since then, it's been a lot of moves on the margin to not really generate anything too exciting. I mean, are you talking about Jimmy Butler? Jimmy Butler started with the Bulls and ended up moving through.
No, Jimmy Butler's another player who was on the Heat who, went to the Warriors and now he's injured and he's out. And oh God, we'll get to them. But no, I mean, like the Bulls are another team where, no, you're right. You'll just walk around in Walmart. You'll be in Walmart, be like, that guy's a Bulls fan. To be fair, this is the thing that I think a lot of the NBA is going to end up going through. I think a lot of these, because like a lot of these newer generation fans, like you were talking about in your first appearance in the show, I feel like a lot of these guys are becoming more like, it's like, because esports has this problem really bad. People are fans of the player, not the org itself. So like you mentioned Michael Jordan. People were a fan of Jordan because he was on the Bulls, so that made you a Bulls fan. It feels like now people are just like LeBron fans, Curry fans, Wembyana fans. And it's not that that's a bad thing. It's just more like you can't really take what those people say serious because like next year, if like Wembyana went to the fucking, I don't know, Cavs, they're going to be a Cavs fan. It's like, you don't have no loyalty to anybody.
It's one of the big changes in the league to try to draw parity, to try to make sure things are more level. They introduced a lot of restrictions around payroll. And frankly, it's just harder. It's just harder to pay some guy every year and build a winning team around it. I'm sure LeBron would have loved to have been a Cavalier for life, but by the time he got to the end of that cycle, there was no way for them to add new players. When Michael Jordan was a Bull, there was none of these rules. They could pay anybody as much money as they wanted. That's kind of what they did. It was easier to keep guys for that long. Like you just don't see that anymore.
You can't do that now. You go to jail.
Sacrifice. Again, circling back to Tom Brady, one of the reasons he was a Patriot for his whole career is because he sacrificed earnings year to year as part of his salary to do that. And NBA players, and by the way, they shouldn't. I hate this whole narrative where people attack these players like, oh, they just want more money. Oh, blah, 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 blah. No sports player in the entire world has paid too much money. You know who makes too much money? The guys who sign their checks. Like it's outrageous to me that there is a maximum contract for players. Can you imagine going to work for a job and there's only a certain amount of money you can get to, and there's nothing above and beyond that? That's outrageous. There's no other industry where that exists. So as much as I wish we could get more players staying with teams for a long time, I think that's better. Wembanyama specifically, who you talk about, I think he will be a Spur for a very long time, if not forever. Yeah. I also don't hold it against LeBron that he wanted to jump around and make more money and go other places. I don't hold it against Kevin Durant that he's played for all these different teams. It's a reality of the world we live in.
Oh, I've got Kobe White.
Oh, yeah. That was at this trade deadline. Yeah.
Kobe White is really good. And for some reason, the Bulls went, you're trading him.
Because they couldn't pay him. He's a free agent this summer. They couldn't pay him.
Him with Josh Giddey was their best player. And then after they lost Kobe White, they've lost how many games out of like, they went on I know they went on a 10-game losing streak. I'm pretty sure they've lost more games since then. Lord, I was like, bro, because they were like solid, like 8-10. Now they're 12. They're 27-38. They're probably not making the play-ins. They got outlapped by the Charlotte Hornets, and the Charlotte Hornets haven't had a winning record, a winning season in decades. Like the Charlotte
Hornets, 11 in a row. They lost 14 out of 15 games. It's almost impressive.
That's actually takes skill.
Not even mad. That's amazing.
And keep in mind, I try to not, because people always ask me, hey, do you just watch like Laker games? No. I primarily watch Laker games, obviously, but I try to watch every other team's game. There's just a lot of games. I try to watch enough as I can, enough recaps, enough highlights. And whenever I watch the Bulls, because like on the NBA's channel, they'll have like final epic. How many epic endings are epic endings? Every title's like final epic ending, the best ever since the last one. Every time I watch the Bulls play, every single time, just in that fourth quarter, and that final epic ending that's more epic than the last ending the next day, you almost get the feeling like it's apathy. You're just like, eh. It feels like no one is trying. No one is caring. Their shooting is mediocre. It's just mediocre. Their shooting is mediocre. Their defense is mediocre. Their offense is mediocre. Their three-point average is mediocre. Players, no real actual care about how they want to move the ball. It's just, I felt this way about the Bulls forever. Like, I don't know how you fix this with a lot of these teams. Like if we're tanking, you just kind of have to you either rehaul everything or you just kind of keep being in the state you're in. I feel like that's why a lot of these NBA orgs are the way they're at right now, is because instead of just trying something new, they're content with being like, well, we're cool with being mediocre. No, like we said, being mediocre is almost it's actually even worse than being just straight up bad. Mediocre just means you're just nothing at that point.
Yeah. So for some teams, it comes down to selling tickets. Some owners want to make money at the box office, and to have a bad team it makes that almost impossible. And the other thing about the NBA and basketball specifically, basketball is the opposite of soccer. And what I'll say about that is a soccer team is defined by their worst player. There are 11 players in the field for a soccer team, and it doesn't matter how good your 10 are if the 11th guy can't make that last connective pass. It will just fall apart. It's like a chain. It's defined by its weakest link. An NBA team is the exact opposite. Your NBA team is only as good as your best player. And that's why we've seen guys like LeBron drag the mediocre teams to the finals and play really well. Why we've seen guys, again, one player makes all the difference. So either you have one of those players and you can build around them and you're a contender, or you should be constantly trying to acquire them. And the best way to acquire them is through the draft, especially with the draft we have coming up this year. It's going to be an incredible draft. Guys like Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, Cam Boozer are really incredible players. Now, who knows if they'll be stars? Who knows if they'll be LeBron and Kevin Durant and Wembanyama on that level? But that's where you have to be. And when you look at the Bulls specifically, they just seem to be comfortable grinding out mediocre seasons every year because people still come. And I guess they're worried that if they're so bad that people won't come, they won't make enough money. It's just an old school ownership thing. That's the other thing too. If you look at owners, the Reinsdorfs own the Bulls. They've owned the Bulls for a long time. And they've never spent money. They just haven't. That's just not who they are as
They're
people.
mid-maxing. That's what people don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. So you look at this Bulls team. I do like what they did at the trade deadline for a team that is too far ahead in the standings to really tank. I liked, again, trying to acquire some first-round picks and stuff like that, and guys that had been first-round picks in the past. So you look, they made trades to acquire guys like Rob Dillingham and players like that. Or you look at it, it's guys like they were first-round picks for other teams. Let's sort of give them a try. But at the end of the day, you either have to commit to being bad for a couple years, get really lucky like the Mavericks did, getting Cooper Flagg, or just you've got a dominant player and you have a chance to build around them.
Or you have Con Knipple on the Hornets that you end up luckily
Well, it's
getting
because
into.
that's the Hornets are where they are because they were one of the worst teams in the league for 10 years. That's years and years of tanking and picking up draft picks. Because, like you said,
Yeah,
it's not just Con Knipple at 4, it's Brandon Miller at 2, it's
right.
LaMelo Ball at 2 or 3. I think he was 3, basically. And if you look at it, most of the guys that are on that Hornets team were top 5, top 10 picks.
Yeah. And also another thing that people seem to forget in this landscape is sometimes orgs aren't just bad because they're just willingly bad. Players get injured. Like I said before, they're humans. They
Oh,
get
bad luck
injured.
happens.
Yeah, and keep in
Bad
mind,
luck happens. And when so
yeah.
much is put on one player, if that player gets hurt, you're toast. As someone who's a Sixers fan and has watched Joel Embiid blow up season after season after season, I don't regret the Sixers drafting Joel Embiid. I maybe regret how they handled that, how they build everything else around him. Again, Giannis for the Bucks.
Yeah.
He just gets hurt. This is a crazy game. We got these 7'2", 7'3" guys playing a game where, for those of you who don't know, when you sprint, you put about 4 to 6 times your body weight's pressure on all of your joints. When you jump, it's 10 to 12 times. And if you look at the long history of the league, big guys don't make it. They just don't. You can't be heavy and be an NBA player. It's one of the reasons I'm not surprised that Zion has struggled. And again, because one player is so important and injured to that player, it all just falls apart. You saw the Nuggets. Jokic was out for a couple weeks. It was a mess, and we see it every year.
Yeah. It's actually amazing how Jokic, has been as good as he has, being as big as he is. I remember like just everyone freaking out on Twitter when he hurt his knee or his ankle, and they're like, "Oh, is he going to be out for like the whole season?" It's like, no, he wasn't. It's just one of those 2-week things. But luckily, it wasn't that actually, because that's how you have a actual star player. It's like when all the fans go, "Well, if we don't have that guy, then we're pretty much nothing." That's how you know things are bad.
So there's a great quote. I can't remember the coach, but it was one of Peyton Manning's coaches for the Colts. And generally, football teams, they practice every week. The backup quarterback will take some snaps with the first team. The Colts, when they had Peyton Manning, never let a backup take snaps. And somebody asked them about it, and they went, well, if a backup's going to come in and take snaps, that means Peyton Manning's hurt. And if Peyton Manning's hurt, we're fucked. And we don't practice fucked.
Oh, God. And it's weird when you actually support a team and you're living and dying by your superstars. But guys, hey, superstars define the game, though. Like that's not basketball. That's everything. There's a reason why these guys pay top dollar or they tank to eventually get top dollar players. Top dollar players will get you very far. Keep in mind, like I know a lot of these Celtics fans were worried about if Jason Tatum came back, only because you know how like a player hasn't been around you for a while, they come back, they go through that rust period where they kind of integrate themselves back in. Yeah, that's understandable. But keep in mind, if Jason Tatum does integrate back very well and he is as good as he used to be, they would be even better. Keep in mind, they're good without him. They're going to be even better with him because that is your X factor right there. He is your X factor player. And we're getting into a point where do you think, given how long you've been watching, as long as I have, are there going to be like another group of players similar to the ones that came around with like Kevin Durant in his kind of era? Actually, I feel like the league is overdue for players. We need a new crop of generation to kind of shake things up a little bit,
There is always waves of guys coming in, and I would point to guys like Shea and Nikola Jokic. They are sort of that second generation after Durant, and just trying to pull up some lists because I know there's names I'm forgetting. But at the same time, I think that's one of the reasons that these couple draft classes are so exciting. You look at last year with Cooper Flagg. This coming year, we're going to have, again, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonta, Cam Boozer. Those are just some incredible guys. But yeah, so you think about the Durant class, cover that next generation is guys like Luka and Shea and Nikola Jokic and Donovan Mitchell. And Anthony Edwards is probably a little bit after that. You got guys like Tyrese Maxey. I don't know where Cade Cunningham sort of fits. That's probably the Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Maxey, Cunningham. And that's a nice part. There's always sort of that next wave of guys. And honestly, one of the things that I'm personally excited about, we finally have some great American players coming. Again, Cooper Flagg from the United States, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, AJ DeBonta. Not that I don't love watching Jokic and SGA and all these guys from other places, but like this is basketball. We invented basketball. Basketball's invented here. This is
crazy.
Our sport. Everyone's like, we invented baseball. It's just a ripoff of cricket. No one was playing basketball anywhere in the world before. James Naismith got sick of having guys running around
back
outside
in my day.
Brought him inside. put a freaking peach crate up on the side, cut a hole in it, and had him chase a ball around. Like, this is our sport. And I like it. And I love what you said. It's all about those waves, those next generations. And one of the things, I think it's been hard for people to see that because we've got guys like Durant and LeBron redefining what it means to play an NBA career. I mean, it's nuts. You look at LeBron, he's over 40. You look at Kevin Durant, he's approaching 40, and still those guys are some of the best players in the league. It's just absolutely crazy, the longevity.
So I want to start covering some of the topics we have. So I know Luka Doncic has been a topic for a lot of people, as he always will be, because, well, keep in mind, he's very, very talented. He's very, very good. And a lot of the different angles started coming up with this. And the thing that you said earlier, where people just for some reason can't talk. Come on, guys, talking out of both sides of your mouth can work in a conversation, because just humor me this, guys. Checks notes. That's called a conversation. Conversations shouldn't just be stagnant. They evolve.
Discourse. What a novel idea.
So part of the reasons why I like doing the shows with noobs and a lot of people say it's just the boys talking about their favorite stuff. And part of the conversation I like to have with a lot of people is conversations evolve over time, where enough has happened to the point where we go, you know what, let's kind of assess how we thought then versus now. And we'll get into the Stephen A. Smith and Draymond Green because you want to talk about that, and I want to talk about that too. But I think the Luka thing is first primarily because a lot of people don't understand. You can praise Luka, which is everyone's going to do that regardless. But this thing in a lot of people's minds, where for some reason in their heads, conversations just can't encompass everything. And for some reason that devalues how good the player is. It's like, what is wrong with you? What generation? I know what generation you guys are, but who were your parents? Who taught you how to speak to people? If my mom ever saw me talking to people, well, she was black. She'd better beat me up. That's how it works. But the thing is, like, dude, have you noticed that with people? They can't just have a conversation and it just be good things and bad things. It has to be all 100% good, all 100% bad, either or, and you can't have all of it. Guys, conversations are like that. They evolve and they can have more good and bad. I don't know how that works for people. So when people go, oh my God, people are talking bad about Luka. Wait, hold on. Is he a perfect human being? Is he not without flaws? And keep in mind, how does me talking bad about him, whining to the refs, at any point devalue how good he is as a player? You understand? You don't got to take everything so literally. You can talk about good and bad, and keep in mind, it could just be just that. That's it. It's called discourse. Holy shit! What a concept,
Yeah, and I love what you're saying because it's something I talk about all the time. The point of conversation should be to find someone whose opinion you respect who disagrees with you about something. And the point of it is not to change each other's minds. The point of it is to create understanding. And it's something where we see this a lot in politics. And I'm not going to get too sideways here, but, when I grew up, we were told that, the worst president we were going to have is George Bush. And at that time, I remember there were a lot of Democrats that hated George Bush, but he was still our president. And they still agreed to support kind of what generally was going on. And at the same time, when Obama was getting elected, I know Republicans did a lot of stuff, but once he was elected, I don't remember them tearing them down in the same way where when Biden was president, anyone who's Republican was just shitting on him all day. Trump now is president. Anyone who's a liberal, you can't be a liberal unless you shit on Trump every day. And it's just, there has got to be some sort of middle ground. And I think this is part of a much, much bigger problem that exists in our society where we've all been sort of turned inside on ourselves, separated and turned into brands. And you can't have a brand unless you're like really strong. Just to say that you feel a lot of different ways is almost to be weak. And it's not. It's not. When you're talking with somebody, I love it. One of my favorite things to do is sit down next to somebody when I'm at a bar, on a train, anywhere in the world, and sit next to somebody who disagrees with me. I love that stuff. I love getting through it. Now, the Luka dialogue specifically highlights a lot of things. Number one, like you said, MVP voting. I think about this all the time. Anybody who votes for someone who's MVP as 2, 3, 4, 5, not number one, well, you must think those guys suck. No, I don't. I think they're the second best, the third best, the fourth best, and the fifth best player. There is a big, gigantic ocean-sized space between saying someone's the best and terrible. There's got to be this middle ground. And Luka specifically, I think it's on two things that really bother people. Number one, like you hinted at, complaining about referees. If you watch a Laker game, if you watch any Luka Doncic game, you're going to see whole minutes of him sitting on the ground complaining to referees while the game is going on. Him standing with his back to the action, complaining to referees while the game is going on.
He did this just yesterday. Things at
play there.
He got
fined for that, as he should. A couple things at play there. Number one, as someone who's played basketball a lot, there's know a lot of people play basketball at very high levels. complaining to a ref is the worst way to get a better call. There is no ref in the history of the world that has ever heard a player complain and be like, you know what, you're right. I'm going to stop this game and change that call. You're right. You know what, you're right. I was wrong. You were right. Let me go ahead and change this. The second thing is it's disrespectful to the game because, again, while he is standing there complaining, the game is going on. He is screwing his teammates. He is leaving them in the lurch. While he is standing there bitching at a referee, the other team is playing 5-on-4. And I think that's a real problem. The second thing is Luka is extremely talented, but the way that Luka plays basketball is tough because it's very high usage. When Luka is on the court, the ball is in his hands, and a lot of players are standing still. We saw this with James Harden for years, someone who absolutely blew away advanced statistics and numbers on every single level, but could never really break through. And I think it speaks to something Michael Jordan experienced, something Kobe Bryant experienced, something a lot of great players experience, where just because you're incredible doesn't mean you should have the ball all the time. In fact, you probably really shouldn't have the ball for the first couple quarters, not till the end, because if you're not moving the ball around, the guys on your team aren't engaged. Again, as someone who's played a lot of basketball at very high levels, there's nothing worse than playing with somebody who holds onto the ball. You become stagnant. You go cold. You're less likely to cut and drive and set screens and rebound and play defense and stuff if the ball's not moving around. It's one of those things where, as I mentioned earlier, basketball is all about who your best player is, but there needs to be the ecosystem. There needs to be 5 players working together. And when you watch a lot of these Luka teams, in the same way you saw James Harden teams, in the same way you saw early Michael Jordan teams, in the same way you saw a lot of iterations of Kobe Bryant, when the usage is really high, when the ball is sticking in their hands, when you're is possession after possession of Luka dribbling and dribbling and dribbling, and a lot of guys just standing there like this with their hands on the side or in the corner not moving, it's hard to generate a lot of positivity there. So again, I'll stop and see what you think. But again, the complaining
I was going to add to your point.
Brutal. But the usage thing too, I think, is the problem. His style of play is not only tough for people to watch, but there is a lot of serious conversations about whether or not you can win at the highest level playing the way Luka likes to play.
No, I was going to just add to your point. I mean, as much as Kobe Bryant was getting praise, or there was 2 things he had a big problem with. People got no one to say. It rhymes with raw hog. He was called a ball hog constantly. Now, you could also leverage it into, okay, he was the only guy really carrying them, so he kind of deserved the ball most of the time. But keep in mind, as good as Kobe was, he was criticized for being a ball hog. Now, does that in any way diminish him putting like 40 on Michael Jordan that one game where they were talking shit to each other? No, guys. It's called, holy shit, a concept you kids don't know these days. You're just talking. You're just conversating. You have like this weird thing where apparently if you criticize any star player, then that must mean that you just automatically just all their achievements or anything. League of Legends, I'll give an example, not to go too far to that. League of Legends, the best player is Faker. If you criticize Faker, these weird parasocial Korean fans just think you actually hate his mom, you hate his guts, you want him to die. It's like, no. I'm just saying that he doesn't play this champion as good as the other guy that plays his champion. Well, that must mean you just hate you. It's like that whole pancakes and waffles argument. I think waffles are better. I'm a waffle supremacy guy. But that I don't hate pancakes. Like what is wrong with some of you guys? You guys got to get back into this thing of like, we're just talking about basketball, we're just talking about sports. It's not that serious. Politics, okay, maybe you could leverage that into that area if you were going that far. But we're just talking about sports here. And Luka is not without his faults. A lot of these players are not without their faults. There's times where I'm watching some games and JJ Redick, the Lakers head coach, he'll pull out Jackson Hayes and then he'll have DeAndre Ayton play and then they're just going down. Now, do I just dislike JJ Redick because he did that? No, I'm just going to say, hey, that's a bad decision. And we criticize it that way. But hey, I do like it when he, swaps out DeAndre Ayton when he's not giving an effort and he puts in Jackson Hayes. See? None of these things are malicious. The intention should matter when it comes to these conversations. Intent matters for everything. And when it comes to the media, okay, I disagree with the media on blah, 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 a lot of stuff. But this is how conversations go in real life, though. Conversations evolve, though. Yes, the Nico Harris, Luka Doncic trade was very bad for the Mavericks, not just because of the players, though. People forget, they gave them the actual... what they got, let's go and read what they got, the Mavericks got. It was even just worse. They got first round draft picks, and it's even worse when it's revealed he was the only team they talked to. He was the first team they talked to, and they just gave him up, Now, does that anyway devalue Luka? No. That's just, I just fail to understand why people just can't let conversations just encompass good and bad. Like, that you would just live in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Like,
Honest
what?
criticism is tough, and it's one of those things. If you're not getting constant criticism, you're not growing. But one of the things I was thinking about while you're talking was, I think one of the other things that people don't like about Luka is, like you're talking about Kobe. We talked about the 81-point game earlier. The Lakers lost in the first round of playoffs that year. You look at Jordan when he was, really filling up the stat sheet. And you look at Luka now, James Harden again. And one of the biggest things in sports is everyone who's ever been great at some point has had to understand I need to sacrifice individual achievements to create team greatness. And I think one of the big frustrations for Luka specifically is they see someone who could achieve team greatness who doesn't seem to be willing to do it. He seems to be focused on individual stuff. And again, I don't know if that's a decision he's actively making every day. I've never met Luka Doncic. I don't know how his brain works. I don't know if his coach is pushing him to play a certain way, if his agent is pushing him to play a certain way, someone like that. There's a lot of factors here. But I think, again, people see greatness in Luka, and when we see greatness in someone, we want them to achieve that greatness. And
Sure.
it just frustrates when people don't. And again, I think we're at that point where, like we were with Michael Jordan in his early career in the late 80s, early 90s, before he started winning championships, Kobe after Shaq, and before they got those Gasol teams. Again, James Harden, who never really achieved greatness at the highest level. Can Luka get to the point where he understands that he needs to change his style, and he'll have less triple doubles and he'll have less stats, whatever, but it'll make the Lakers a better team. It'll make his team a better team. But at the end of the day, I love what you're saying. I could not agree more. Saying something negative doesn't mean you hate someone. Offering honest critique and criticism, breaking things down does not mean you hate someone. Again, there's a giant megalithic sized gulf between hating someone and loving something. And saying that Luka Doncic could be a little more thoughtful about the way he plays, saying that Luka Doncic could do a better job at least pretending to play defense or involving his teammates or not whining at the refs, is not saying Luka's terrible.
Oh, we'll use an example of a game just recently. It was their one against the Miami Heat where he's dribbling to go and make a three because that's the only way they're going to win the game or force it, I think, to overtime or whatever, or even win by 1 point. And he throws it to LeBron, and LeBron, or it was LeBron or Marcus Smart, they missed. And people were like, well, why didn't you just take it yourself? Because if you look at footage from his Mavericks days, he would have just made the shot and did it.
This is an excellent point. Because again, people should be excited he made that pass. I was just thinking about what you're talking about, like everyone ripped on LeBron for passing the ball. It was one of the things Jordan, when he was starting to win championships, one of the biggest moments, and I wish I could remember what year, what series this was, but he kicked the ball out. It was not Kerr. It was another guy who was on the team. At the end of the game, and Jordan has the ball and everything's going to shoot. He turns, kicks it to this guy in the corner. He makes the shot. They win. And it's just like, no one ever questioned that. LeBron, it was a pass to Donyell Marshall. Again, I can't remember what year they passed it to Donyell Marshall. He misses the shot. I was like, oh, LeBron's an idiot. LeBron's an idiot. People don't know what they want. They just want to complain. Maybe that's what they want. They just want to complain.
Because after that game where Luka made that pass, I forgot maybe it was to LeBron or Austin or Marcus Smart. It was the thing where Lakers fans are all dogging on Luka. What is this? Am I supposed to be like in a cult? If there's like a cult of Luka fans out there where
all Lakers fans. I interviewed every single one.
Like, is there a cult of like LeBron, Luka, and Curry and all these weird people's fans where I have to get on my knees and suck these people off and like literally they must walk on a yellow brick road? I can't, like, what is that? For some reason, me criticizing Luka making a horrible pass in that moment. Come on, it's all in the moment. There's high stakes. I get it. I'm not armchairing
small sample size, one pass, one shot.
Like, must mean that all Lakers fans just dislike Luka. Guys, Nico Harris's mistake, come on, the whole saying of another man's trash is another man's treasure. To be fair, in this case, he's not trash, but factor into the Lakers' history, like you talked about in your first appearance, they got a lot of the best players for teams imploding or making bad trades. But, hey, you only can do with what you're given. It's just one of these things where
there's 30 teams, only one wins the championship, folks. There is 450 players in the NBA, only one of them is MVP. Let's, there are levels. Let's try to understand that.
Right. I just think the way that people turn the conversation is like everyone's just, yes, everyone is turning on Luka. Those dedicated Luka fans. There's people that are Mavericks fans in that LA stadium holding up his name. Yeah, they're
people in Dallas watching Lakers games cheering for him. Like you said, all Lakers fans. Oh, all Lakers fans? You talk to all of them? Did you talk to even 20% of them? Are there people in the Lakers stadium booing Luka? Did they boo him at the end of the game? No.
Yeah.
Let's grow up.
Oh my God, it's absolutely ridiculous. The conversations around these people are just insane. It's like, for some reason, simultaneously, I must praise everything he does. And anyone offering a little bit of criticism just automatically means that he must be worse than fucking the worst player in the league. It's like, well, if you live life like that, there's no wonder why you guys live at home with your mom still, because you don't, you just, for some reason, I can understand why you can't function in life. You don't understand that bad things can happen and good things. You just, that old saying when I was growing up, you take the good with the bad, you take the bad with the good. It's just how you live life, you know?
So again, not to get too far sideways, I was raised Catholic, and one of the
Mhm.
big things about being a Catholic, being a Christian, is everyone's a sinner. There is only one
That is
human
true.
being, according to Catholicism, in the history of the world, that wasn't a sinner, and that was Mary, the mother of Jesus. Jesus was a sinner. Jesus was a sinner. If you go back and read, again, he goes into several situations. He disrespects his mom. He throws a shit fit outside of the temple and knocks a bunch of stuff over. Gets into a fight with people. And when I hear that everyone's a sinner, that's actually a big relief. What a relief. Oh my God, we're all sinners. And that's the point of the comment. You have sinned. I have sinned. Everyone's going to sin. Let's cut each
Yeah.
other a fucking break. Nobody's perfect, least of all Luka Doncic.
So the other thing I wanted to cover here was the Stephen Smith Draymond Green drama, and this is going to come from a point, guys, where I think both have an understanding of what is going on. But like, okay, so we'll do an example here. You said, could you play basketball? I've not played basketball professionally. I've only played like pickup games throughout my life with other people, but it's going to be a very, very important thing for people to know. And keep in mind, I think both are right. And you're talking both sides. No, I generally think both of their perspectives are right, but it just depends on what is your overall general viewpoint of how each scenario has gone in your life. If I'm a player and I'm actually playing the game, when someone's analyzing, let's say you have like an analyst on your team or a head coach, whatever, you're going to, in your back of your head, because everyone does this, you're going to be like, wait a minute, you're not in the game. You know what the fuck I'm going through. Vice versa. When someone's analyzing and then someone's playing, they're going to have a different viewpoint of that situation, though. Like when someone says, hey, I've never played League of Legends, but I know how these champion interactions work. You don't. You do not. Because if you actually play the interactions, you would know that doesn't work and how advantage windows works. Same thing with basketball. I can criticize someone all day on how they post up against someone or how they dunk on someone. But keep in mind, if I've never actually dunked, if I've never shot the ball, if I've never dribbled in front of someone, if I've never been challenged by someone, I will not, you fundamentally, this is just my personal opinion, you fundamentally will not know how that works. Keep in mind, an analyst can go, hey, dude, you should have just dribbled to the left when that guy went to the right. Wait, keep in mind, if you've never been in that scenario, how would you know that's the right thing? You could only know what's the right scenario if you played that scenario out 1,000 times. But keep in mind, there's a reason why there's a duality between coaching and actually playing on the court. So I think primarily what it comes down to is, both Draymond Green and Stephen A. Smith are very, how would I say this though? It's a black guy meme. It's like they're very like headstrong about how they view the game. And it's not that they're wrong specifically. It's just like a different way of viewing the game. It's a different way about how the media portrays things. Keep in mind, the media portrays things very badly all the time. And because Draymond Green, he had mentioned something of like, well, you've never played the game, so you would know. Well, keep in mind, there's coaches, guys, who've never actually played physical basketball and have, they're coaching people right now. Is that wrong? No. That's not. Someone could master a concept without actually playing it. My own personal opinion to that is that person won't really know how it feels unless you actually do it, though. I'm not saying you can't master basketball just from watching some videos. I'm not saying that. I'm not gatekeeping like that. I'm just saying, like, I've played against people and I know how people play. If you've never did that, then how would you know how that works, though? Like, you can theorize how it works, but theory only goes so far. Theory and actual reality practice go hand in hand if you know how both work, though, But I want to get your opinion on that drama that happened like just a few days ago. It's actually a few days ago. That's crazy, though. Two black guys fighting. What a crazy thing, right?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question directly, but I will say that, one of the biggest problems with media is it's a lot of people watching slow-mo videos after the fact trying to explain decisions. And whether you played basketball or not, I think you're still capable of understanding what you should have done. But there is very little respect in the media world for what these players have to deal with day to day. And it's something, I'm someone that's on shows all the time. I'm a big NBA bettor. People have me on to talk about it. And I often rag on these guys. And one of the things I like to always say before I rag on them is, now, so-and-so is better at basketball than I ever will be at anything in my life. However, I think they could have done something better. It's what I'm worried is in the media specifically, there's not that recognition of the fact that, like, these guys are better at basketball than you ever will be at anything in your life. Anything. And the second thing is too, these guys are experiencing this in real time. It's happening in real time. They don't get a chance to hit pause on the game, watch a video for several hours, and then go, you know what? That's the play I should need to make. Now,
yeah.
The Draymond Green and the Stephen A. Smith thing specifically, this to me seems like two people who are trying to ensure their viability in the world. And Stephen A. Smith, I have a complicated relationship with because I grew up in Philadelphia. I grew up reading the Philadelphia Inquirer. And Stephen A. Smith, before he was the highest paid personality in the history of ESPN, was a mediocre to bad column writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He would write this stuff. I'd read it every day and just like, well, if this guy's getting paid to do it, I can find a way to sort of figure this out. But he is someone who his entire job is based around saying inflammatory things and trying to do it in a way where he says safe inflammatory things. So he was one of the first people on First Take. And if you're not familiar, it's an ESPN show where two people argue with each other and one person basically in every argument has to come up with some insane thing to say to try to generate conversation. If you listen to interviews with Max Kellerman and other guys that have been on the show with him, they're like, Stephen A. Smith puts a pressure on you to say crazy shit. And he never really does. Like the craziest thing he'll say is like Steph Curry's the best shooter ever, which like is not a crazy thing to say. It's just something that
he's playing like the safe take while the other person has to play like giving the hottest take, so they take all the pressure. Yeah, okay,
exactly. So Draymond Green basically comes out and says more or less that people need to stop making fun of Nico Harrison for this Luka Doncic trade. And part of it is Draymond Green is a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He wants to have a career in media. I don't know if that will be working for ESPN or ABC or NBC or any of these big media conglomerates, or they'll be through his own thing. But I think he knows when he's saying that he's going to get a reaction. In the same way as we talked about people being negative and ripping on people, they know when they say that they're going to get a reaction. And I think that both Stephen A. Smith and Draymond Green got exactly what they wanted out of that. We're talking about it now. Everyone is talking about it. There's articles around. There's people talking about it. And it's a thing where Draymond Green knows that the end of his career is near. He was very close to being traded from the Warriors this year. Could possibly be traded this offseason as someone who is at the very end of his career and usefulness for an NBA champion. It's just really, really tough for him. And Stephen A. Smith is someone that will always take the bait. So I'm not surprised, basically, is the best way to say it. And I think, again, it's just two people doing what they want to do. Draymond trying to get attention and interact with somebody, and Stephen A. Smith, basically picking up low-hanging fruit and try to make the best of it.
Right. And I do want to just also echo some of your sentiment too earlier when you said discourse. People have to understand, because Stephen A., he did bring it up in one of his videos I was watching. You have to have discourse because Draymond Green is criticizing Skip Bayless. You guys know who Skip Bayless is. I like Skip too, even though he's basically another version of Stephen A. saying wild, crazy shit, hoping to get a reaction. And keep in mind, Skip Bayless literally this year said if the Dallas Mavericks got AD and Kyrie and Klay on the floor, they would be in the finals with OKC. Now keep in mind, just takes an age like milk, obviously. If
I was a foot taller, I'd be in the NBA.
If I had $1 million, would I be broke? That's a debate for another day. But the thing is, it's one of those things where if you want to see someone's point of view and understand it, well, you have to hear them out, right? It's like Draymond Green is calling Skip Bayless irrelevant, but it's like, dude, you just had him on your show. Obviously, you have to understand, you have to talk to people. Come on. The thing is, hey, on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, if you randomly see a person say something you don't like, you know what? Instead of like, I don't know, bashing them, you could literally just talk to them. I don't get this thing where it's like you might let's say randomly you see me tweet I like Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal more than Frosted Flakes, and you go, how dare you?
Take.
How dare you? I never want to do this show with you ever again. You're a Lakers fan, big L, can't spell Lakers without L, and I'm sort of like, what? People gotta stop doing just having.
It's the theme of the episode, MSK. How many times have we circled back to this where negative arguments get more attention? That's what people are doing. They're all playing a part. Unfortunately, we live in a world where if Draymond Green and Stephen A. Smith agreed with each other, we'd never hear about it. But they disagree, so that's all we're hearing about.
Yeah.
And by the way, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is way worse than Frosted Flakes. I don't know, but those are two bad cereals.
I think Fruity Pebbles is disgusting. I think
awful.
Yeah, anyone completely overrated. But it's also this thing where, I will say this, and I'll just circle back to my original point. I do believe if you're someone that's never actually physically done it, it's going to be hard for you to convince someone of your viewpoint. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't, but it's just
It's
when
hard to
someone's
convince anyone of your viewpoint, whether you've done it or not. I mean,
right.
changing minds is tough.
Yeah, keep in mind, if you're someone who's been in the ring and done it versus someone who's armchair analyzing, because like the fan goes like, a fan would go, hey, how can you criticize Luka Doncic? You're not in the NBA. By that logic, why are you a fan then? You can't understand high level basketball. What the fuck? Where did that even come from? How does that logic work? How can you criticize someone better than you? By that logic, then how can you criticize a movie? How do you know what good acting is by your own logic? It's like,
God
what?
forbid you have an opinion.
Also, let's go over, because you wanted to mention the tanking problem that we talked about earlier. I think tanking goes one of two ways. You tank for a long time and then it ends up working out for you, or you tank to a point where the excuse is I'm just tanking, and then it just comes into what's come of it. You're tanking, but what have you gotten out of it? Well, selling more tickets. I guess that's a upside. I don't know, because like tanking for me has always been that way. People always use it as an excuse to just kind of suck, or they use it to maybe get better on the off chance of it. I wanted to get your opinion on it, because I know this has been a big thing with Pacers tanking, Wizards tanking. The Hornets were said to be tanking, but they did turn it around when they got their players healthy. So what was your opinion on the old tanking problem with the NBA and how we can fix it?
Yeah, it's we talked a little bit earlier. You have to have a great player to be a great team. That's just the way the NBA goes. And for a lot of these teams, it's hard to acquire. It's hard to acquire a great player in free agency because great players generally go into free agency. One of the crazy things about LeBron, the decision of all that stuff was he might be the greatest player in the history of the league to be a free agent. You go back and look, the Sixers signed Paul George 2 years ago. Paul George was one of the best free agents in history, and that was at the end of his career.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get a good player unless you draft them or you trade for them. And it's hard to trade for them because, again, as we saw with Giannis, a lot of teams don't have those assets. So if you look, pretty much all the great players that we look for these teams. So Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, they drafted him. Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they drafted them. New York Knicks, that's a little different. They traded for Jalen Brunson. They traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. That's kind of the exception to the rule. The Cavaliers drafted Evan Mobley, drafted Darius Garland, who eventually they traded for Harden. They did trade for Donovan Mitchell. You look at Oklahoma City, drafted Jalen Williams, drafted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, drafted Chet Holmgren. You look at the San Antonio Spurs, drafted Wembanyama, drafted Castle, drafted Dylan Harper. Again, you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, drafted Anthony Edwards, Denver, drafted Nikola Jokic. That's the best way to get really good players. It is really hard to make a trade for someone who's great. So as long as the draft itself rewards teams that have bad records, we're going to have tanking. And I guess I have a question for you as MSK is, do you think bad teams should be rewarded in the draft? Do you think that if you're a bad team, you should get a chance to draft better players? Or should we have a system in which we don't really care about parity and there's sort of equal thing for everybody? So let's say, for example, everyone has the same odds to win the lottery. Would you be okay if the Thunder had the first pick in next year's draft?
See, for me, I like the parity thing. I like having it. For me specifically, when it comes to like all of these sports and esports things that I follow, I like the aspect that any player could randomly end up on a team and they could just be the next best team for a while. Keep in mind, you mentioned drafting. The Warriors got that team that everyone loved. They're drafting. That was a thing that they actually did. They drafted
Curry, Thompson, Green. Drafted all three of them.
Yeah, I do think draft, like, and I'll ask you then, do you think there's any way you could really improve how you draft a player? I feel like unless you kind of overhaul some of these systems, you can't really change anything, because some of these systems have been here for longer than I've been alive, actually, you know, and I understand it makes the league look bad, but I want people to understand this though. It's not just the NBA. There's always, like you said before, there's only going to be one winner. Keep in mind, guys, in a regular season, there's only going to be one first place team, and someone is always going to be last. That's just how math and sports works for as long as I've been alive. Keep in mind. But it's just, I guess, almost to understand, if you're 15th, like the Pacers are, or you're last like the Wizards, yeah, of course they're going to be bad. It's one of these things where people are like, well, these guys are tanking and they're bad. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of the point, though. You're last for a reason because you suck balls. What?
It's one of the things that bothers me about this conversation. Everyone talks about it like every team should be good. Every team should be good. Like there's no bad teams in any leagues. Every baseball team's great. Every hockey team's great. Every football team's great. Only in the NBA we have teams that are bad. And I think it's simply because there has been more teams that have actively tried to be bad. My Sixers, the process.
Oh God,
There's more of a conversation about in the NBA about being bad. In the football, in the NFL, every year you see bad teams win late in the season that screws up their draft pick. It's hard in football, and I think a lot of that comes down to the nature of the game. It's a lot more physical. If you don't try in a football game, you're going to get hurt. But you also have players in football that don't have guaranteed contracts. You have a lot of guys on these teams that are fighting for their next job. Or in the NBA, there's a lot more guaranteed money. Baseball, the draft is not as fertile as a ground. It's a lot easier to acquire big free agents in baseball. If you're a bad team, if you're a good team, if you're a big city, if you're a small city. Hockey, again, it just doesn't seem to be tanking. Whereas the NBA, this seems to be a constant conversation. That's my first thing. There's always going to be bad teams. If we eliminate tanking, there's going to be terrible teams. There just are. That's just the way this goes. And again, the point of my question to you is to eliminate tanking, I think the only way to eliminate tanking is to create a system where we don't reward bad teams, where the teams with the worst records don't have the best chances to win the lottery. But is that a world we want to live in? Is that something we want? Do we want to live in a world where you've got a team like the Brooklyn Nets or the Washington Wizards, the Utah Jazz, the Sacramento Kings that no matter what they do, they're bad? And whether they tank or not, there's just no way for them to get better. And
right.
The system we have today is the same system that, again, allows a small market team like San Antonio to have such great players, to allow a smaller market team like Minnesota to get a guy like Anthony Edwards, even a team like Phoenix to get Devin Booker. It's just, I don't see a great answer to this. I don't love it. I don't love that you watch a Wizards game and Keyshawn George basically gets benched in the fourth quarter. You watch a Utah Jazz game, Keontae George gets benched in the fourth quarter. You watch these teams, they basically just totally pull the rug. That's a real bummer. And I wonder if they're going to come up with something where after a certain date, wins count towards your draft chances more than losses and stuff. But at the end of the day, the primal issue is something that I don't feel like is talked about enough, where the way it's set up right now, being bad helps you in the draft. It gives you a chance to get good players, and getting a good player is your only chance to really get good. And the easiest way to do it is to draft them. So do we want to divorce ourselves from that? Because there's still going to be bad teams. And I'm fine with it. I really just am. And I think it's a conversation thing. I think we have to do a better job of changing perspective. And if I was in charge of NBA marketing, NBA media, I would be constantly talking to people like, how do we change this conversation? How do we put this into a new light to sort of distract people and explain to people the fact that, number one, there's always going to be bad NBA teams. There are bad teams in every league. So even if we eliminate tanking, even if we eliminate teams that are actively trying to lose, the Sacramento Kings aren't trying to lose. They're just terrible. The Pelicans are not tanking. The Pelicans don't control their pick. They don't. They're just terrible, folks. That's always going to be a thing. So
same with the Pistons for many years. They were just bad. They were just astronomically bad. Willingly bad.
It seems like a conversation where people aren't seeing the whole picture. It's this real rabbit hole tunnel vision thing of teams are actively trying to lose. They shouldn't be actively trying to lose. And I get that. But even if they aren't, we still have a lot of other problems that come after it. In the same way, when someone's like, anybody else but him should be the coach. Anybody else should do that. Give me an answer. Give me a solution to this problem. Stop complaining about the problem. Let's, again, negativity. Maybe that's the theme of today's whole show. Let's be more positive. Instead of talking about what's wrong, let's talk about how to make it right, folks.
You know me. I'm all encompassing. I'm taking the good with the bad, especially with the good and the bad in that. So, a lot of people do this a lot too, like you just said. Not seeing the full picture. How has tanking affected the Pelicans, Wizards, Kings decision-making when making teams, coaching staffs, and all that stuff? Keep in mind, guys, this problem is so weird how people just can't isolate stuff in their brain. This could be a problem, which is tanking. Let's for argument's sake, say this is the problem. I agree. But in this other portion of this problem, these teams are bad because they make bad decisions. What is the X factor in a lot of these other teams? Ownership, the people who run the lead offices. Who keeps making bad decisions for the Lakers, guys? The guy that they literally just re-signed for their head office, a week ago? Come on. How is tanking going to affect all these teams, though? Keep in mind, I can agree that tanking is a problem, but we also have to come with the other angle of why do these teams? Keep in mind, guys, a lot of these orgs we keep talking about, they've been tanking for a long time, but not just tanking. You can use tanking as an excuse for maybe 1, 2, 3 years. if you've not been tanking for 10 years, no way. You just suck ass. You just suck ass at building your roster. You suck ass at trading. You suck at giving away your draft picks. A lot of these guys sacrificed all their draft picks years ago for things that didn't work. They gambled on something, it didn't work, and now they suffer because of it. But that's not tanking's problems. That's your decision making that's the problem. I don't care if people keep saying it's like no, tanking's the main reasons why the fucking Wizards and the Pacers suck. Really, it's just tanking, not their bad decision making, because that just has no implications at all, right? Holy shit, you people are dumb. It can't
right,
save you.
And that's I think it's weird because it's something people who talk about tanking are like, well, getting a high draft pick isn't a guarantee. Well, it's like in that same vein, the organizations that are making bad draft picks to create bad teams are also signing bad coaches and bad players and aren't putting things together in a way that makes sense. Like there are so many things here, and maybe this is the thing, I'm too deep in the NBA and I don't hear enough stuff. I feel like the NBA is the most complained about league of all the leagues. It has been for a long, long time, and I don't know why. And maybe it's because the NBA likes the discourse. They like the stuff like this. But again, tanking to me, it's not even the biggest problem in the NBA, and I'm still not sure it is a problem. Like, so if I'm the commissioner, really what I'm doing about tanking is upping the fines. Like, I really like that Adam Silver came out and fined, I think it was the Wizards $500,000 and the Indiana Pacers like $250,000 because they were like actively like getting rid of guys. Because
we use the Kings roster, like you said. Remember, the Kings thought they put together a good team in the offseason. No, guys, they just
tried their best. Right. And it's a thing where, so the one thing I will say about tanking is it sucks for the fans. It sucks if you're someone who wants to be a fan of a team and you're coming to see some of the players. And again, they're bad teams. There's not too many guys. And it's like, you're a Jazz fan. You want to go see the Jazz. You want to see Lauri Markkanen play. You want to see Jaren Jackson Jr. play. And you just don't get to see that because they're tanking. And it's a bummer, but like at the end of the day, these teams are just bad. They're just bad. And that's the way it is. And we're not going to solve that by getting rid of tanking. But
like, guys, look at this Kings roster. The only decent it's really bad. And keep in mind, I think some of these players are, if you move these players on different teams, I do feel like they'll I actually like Zach LaVine. I think he's not that bad. He can't work here.
What, like 5 years ago?
You know, I'm holding out hope, man. Don't do that to me. I have the Hawkeye meme from Endgame. Don't give me hope. Like I knew they lost the offseason when the Nuggets got rid of Russell Westbrook, and keep in mind, no team wanted this guy after all the bullshit he's been doing to teams for many years.
He's their starting point guard
and their captain. Not just that, their cap, he leads them.
It's rough. And it's like you said, some of these teams are just bad. And I think at the end of the day, people's problem with tanking is you've got teams that are actively trying to lose. The Jazz, the Pacers, what they did at certain points. And I get that. That's because the incentives are in place. But like, just don't watch bad teams. What a novel idea. Like, don't watch bad teams. It's the NBA. There's 4, 5, 6 games on every night. You look tonight, there are 6 games. Cleveland's playing Orlando right now. That game's probably great. The Knicks are playing Utah. Don't watch that. Toronto's playing the Pelicans. Don't watch that. Watch Denver, Houston, which is starting shortly. Watch, Minnesota play LA. Like, what is this thought that like every game should be good? Like the NBA is the only league where every team should be good and every game should be good. Like, get the fuck out of here.
I want people to understand, with this many teams in the league, you can kind of, at this point, which is good, come on, you could always have done this. It's not just something you could do right now. But this is a food for your thought, people. You can choose to watch only the bangers, right? Maybe we should have a segment on the show called Bangers Only. This is the thing. If you could choose to only watch the banger-only teams, you don't always have to watch I try to watch enough games, but I never thought I'd try to watch every game because, come on, guys, that's literally impossible. It's impossible to do that. Yeah.
There's a bunch of games. Like Dallas is playing Memphis tomorrow. I will not see that game. No, hard pass. Looking through here, seeing kind of what else is coming up. Brooklyn apparently has like a big break.
76ers. I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah, like that's just going to be a bummer. And I'm trying to find games where there's 2 bad teams. Like Indiana's playing Milwaukee on Sunday.
Magic.
Pass.
Look.
Here it is. The Jazz are playing the Sacramento Kings on Sunday night. No. Hard fucking pass. That is no, absolutely not. And again, that's what I keep sort of talking about. Like, why does the NBA have this pressure to have every game be good? Is every NFL game good? No. Is every baseball game good? No. Is every NHL game good? No. Is every college game good? No. Why should every NBA game have to be good? Like, grow up.
Man, imagine willingly going out and watching Browns games. That's crazy. That's wild. if you actually willingly go and watch Brown games, I think you must hate your life at this point.
Imagine being a Jets fan. I don't know if you've seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, but there's
I
only a
know,
Curb Your
yeah.
Enthusiasm episode about how the Jets killed somebody. Like, there are just people braver than me in the world.
Oh God! And keep in mind, I understand you want to be a fan of the league and watch people. Because keep in mind, if you watch a lot of these games, and keep in mind, you get to be knowledgeable on how teams work on stuff. Keep in mind, guys, that comes with the good and the bad. You watch the Kings, you're gonna see them sucking ass. That's how it works. You watch the watch the Thunder play, you're gonna see them doing good. But keep in your mind, that's how this works, though. When you're the best team, you're gonna look really good. When you're the worst team like them, come on, the Kings willingly took Russell Westbrook when he had no offers. Come on, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve offers. They took him when he had no offers and made them. They're so stupid. They made them their team captain. Then he said in an interview he's in charge with like developing the talent. And people think tanking's the issue. Are you people insane? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Good Lord.
Maybe the easiest way to say it is like, again, the Pacers and Jazz were fine for tanking. Would those games have been any better if they tried? Would those games have been any more entertaining if they didn't bench guys in the fourth quarter? No. No. There is no version of a Jazz Pacers game at any point in the season that would be any good. So it's small-minded to stuff. Again, MSK, I think that's the theme of the whole thing. Everyone has these small-minded little things. Everyone's looking for a reason to be upset. And in the NBA, apparently there's a lot.
Oh, my last thing I wanted to touch on is the Inside on NBA discourse. Like I think we missed that. There was this weird Inside on NBA discourse that happened where a lot of people were just kind of hating on Shaq and Barkley and all those guys. It was like, what did they? I don't get it though. It's weird how people will say, "Hey, Shaq's one of the best defenders and players of all time." Well, then listen when that man plays. Oh, sorry. Listen when that man is speaking. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, they're humans. They're gonna give a take you don't like. They're gonna give a take you do like. Guys, I don't understand this stuff. That's the theme of their show. They're gonna say the thing that you may not or love to hear. That's kind of been like their thing with all of them for a very long time. And keep in mind, their show, I would imagine, performs way better than First Take and all those other segments. No offense to those guys, but I like the Inside on NBA. It was this weird thing. It was like this 2-week period where everyone on social media just turned on them. Was like, what did they do? Okay, the year before that they were big. It's like, no, ESPN, pick up these guys. We can't have these guys on the air. What is going on in the world where 2 weeks you'll love someone, but the next week it's like, nah. Yeah, see you next Tuesday. It's like, what? Those guys are entertaining. Keep in mind, could they watch more games? Sure, but guys, they're busy. We're not. Come on, you keep saying they don't watch enough games. You don't watch enough games. There's no way you watch every game. Random person who's not even paying his own cell phone bill. You don't watch every game. I don't watch every game. Why are we doing that weird fake thing? It's like, I watch every game. You sure do. You sure watch every game. Tell me what happened in the Utah Jazz versus Wizards game in fourth quarter. Huh? They did. Yeah, no one watches every game. It's impossible. What the fuck?
I love to hear you say that because when someone tells me they watch every game, my brain just shuts off because I know what they're about to tell me isn't useful or is something everyone else already knows. And again, I just think that's the theme of the show today, MSK. Let's fight the tide of negativity. But what I will say about Shaq and Charles specifically is, and I'll draw another metaphor. Patrick McEnroe, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, calls a lot of tennis matches. But a lot of tennis fans struggle with him because he often doesn't know players unless they're some of the very best players in the game. Unless it's Yannickson or Carlos Alcaraz, the two best men's players. Unless it's Arina Sabalenka or Iga Swiatek, some of the best women's players. They just don't know who they are. And Charles and Shaq, a couple times a year, have these embarrassing moments where they're watching a game and talking about it, and they don't know who guys are who are starting. I think the latest one was Shaq didn't know who Baylor Shireman was. Baylor Shireman's been starting for the Celtics for like a month. And I think what bothers people is, as interesting as they are, as great of a job as they do most of the time, there's a lack of preparation. There is a lack of, I don't know if seriousness is the right word. I don't know if maybe they're too comfortable in their position. They don't feel like they have to plan the way they used to. It's just a couple times a year, you hear them say some stuff where it's like, your job is to talk about basketball. Your job is to talk about basketball. And you're telling me you don't know who this person is. And this is someone who's played 20, 30 minutes a night for this team for months, for weeks. It's just, and I think that frustrates people. It really does. So I don't worry about it. I sort of let it go. I give them a pass on that. And I think it's, again, a combination of that. Like you said, they're honest and they offer honest ideas, and people respond negatively to honest ideas. But I do wish they were a little more prepared.
And I agree. And that's the thing where it's like, I feel like for their show, it's, one time they were arguing about like fucking what greatness was, and it's like,
A
should we be
stupid
arguing?
conversation.
It was the one where they were talking about oh my god, they were talking, oh my god, it's the Knicks player, the big guy. Oh my god, I'm blanking
Towns,
out.
Karl Anthony Towns.
They were arguing if he should have more of a killer instinct, and Barkley was like, not everyone's gonna have that killer instinct like you do, and they were having a conversation.
Because that's the thing you could just turn on.
Yeah, that's their problem.
It's a decision you make.
Yeah, like they're I feel like that's part of their charm. They're not going to have those nitty gritty, nuanced conversations like people want them to have. But I do feel like they could improve by having them, though. It like someone like Karl Anthony Towns, I do feel like isn't going to be in that killer mode where he's going to just dunk on people and make them look embarrassed. But someone like Wemby is, and that's why people get to see how good of someone like. Because I do agree with Jack. Most of these big guys don't use their size, to their advantage, honestly. But some of them don't use their size maybe because, hey, they might get technicals, they might get thrown out of a game. There's a bunch of different reasons. I do feel like what you're saying is true. They need to improve on different aspects to allow their conversations to flourish more. It's like, how many times we're going to talk about Shaq getting swept in the finals? It's like, come on, man. Everyone knows at this point. It's like, yes, Shaq is going to say some crazy stuff, but it's like, we got to analyze what we're going on here,
No, I actually like the conversation they had about Towns, and it's one of those things where now Shaq's a little tough because if you know the history of Shaq, when he was on the court playing, he played as hard as anybody, but off the court, he did not train in the way everybody else did. But Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley have something in common that not a lot of other players do. They played every single minute of the game trying to embarrass the team they were playing. It's something everybody likes about Kobe and Michael Jordan, and something I think people wanted more from LeBron, that Shaq didn't score on people. He dunked on their faces. He didn't bump them. He threw them down. Charles Barkley is one of the greatest in-game dunkers of all time. He would just rise up and crush people. He would steal rebounds from them. And that level of tenacity is important to winning. And the Karl Anthony Towns conversation specifically, I actually think it helped. If you go and watch the way Cat has played since those games, he has played with a little more of an edge. He has been a little bit more aggressive. Yeah. And like you said, there's a lot of reasons that guys aren't like that. Either they haven't trained to be like that, they have a little bit more of a cerebral game to them.
Could be a mental block.
To get injured. Maybe they got other stuff going on. I mean, I wish I could tell you that playing basketball was the number one concern for every NBA player, but it's just not.
Well, they might have a mental block. Like this thing where people don't think it's a mental game too. He mentally might not think he can block that guy in that moment because he might get fouled out. There's a bunch of different reasons, like you said. Right. But I do feel like those conversations that they have on their show, this generation is just a little too soft. They don't like that. It's like everyone has to throw flowers at each other. Everyone has to be nice to each other. Like, no, that's not how people are in real life at all, by any stretch of the imagination. It's just
stop the negative tide, MSK. That's what we're going to call the show. Put that as the title of the show.
I'm going to be a Super Saiyan with
negativity.
So the last thing I wanted to cover on the show was the what's thing? Oh my god, fucking hell! Oh my god, Clippers guy. Blanking on his name right now. Oh my
Kawhi?
God. Was it Kawhi? The one that they just traded. Oh my god.
Zubac?
That's another crazy thing too. They got rid of oh my god.
Zubac or Harden? Who are you talking about?
Harden. Oh my god, James Harden. That's Why can't I? Everyone looks the same. I just forget everyone. I'm getting old at this point. But yes, what did you think about the James Harden trade when it happened? Because you know it was going to happen at some point. It feels like it was over. He always does this with teams, though. That's the thing. He just kind of leaves. At some point, he's going to be gone. That's just how I've always seen the guy.
The Clippers are in a uniquely difficult position where something we talked about earlier in the episode about Chauncey Billups and rigged poker games. Earlier in the offseason, there was a lot of reporting around the fact that Kawhi Leonard got a job at a company called Aspirations. And for those of you who don't know, Aspirations was a non-for-profit company that was going to plant trees and change the world. And it turned out to sort of be a scam. But one of the biggest investors in Aspirations was Steve Ballmer. And if you didn't know, Steve Ballmer owns the Clippers. And Kawhi Leonard got a contract from Aspirations that stipulated that he didn't have to do any work and paid him some money. And as we've talked about a couple times, the NBA has very strict rules about max salaries and how much you can pay people. And it seems like this may have been a very creative way for Steve Ballmer to pay Kawhi Leonard money outside of the salary cap stipulations. And we still have yet to hear about that. There is a very prestigious law firm that's looking into it. The NBA has yet to rule on this. But you take that with the fact that you've got a Clippers team that has a lot of older players, that doesn't have a lot of draft picks, that is at a point where it's time to sort of move on from stuff. And if you're the Clippers, what the trade ended up being was James Harden for Darius Garland, and you take someone to James Harden, who's a very good player, one of the best regular season players of all time, statistically a really great player, but you turn him into someone in Darius Garland who's 10 years younger, has a lot of upside. So it was a really great way for them to freshen the team. At the same time, they also traded Ivica Zubac as their starting center, a really good player to the Pacers, for some draft picks, and for a guy named Benedict Mathurin, who's a very, I think, underrated younger player. And I think from a Clippers perspective, it was sort of a soft rebuild. We're not going to get rid of Kawhi and Derek Jones Jr. and a lot of these other guys to sort of make the team what it is. But this is an opportunity for us to shed some salary, bring in some younger guys, pick up some draft picks.
Right.
As for Harden's implications for the Cavaliers, he joins the Cleveland Cavaliers team that I just don't see it. I really don't. Harden makes them a lot better. They have these two big guys, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, who are perfect guys to put around Harden. Jared Allen already has played probably the best couple months of his life with James Harden throwing him alley-oops and things like that. But it's one of those things where, honestly, I think the bigger trade was Zubac for the Pacers. I think next season, once the Pacers get Halliburton back, getting Zubac is a perfect piece for them. As far as Harden goes, I think he makes the Cavaliers a lot more interesting, but I don't think he fundamentally changes their destiny. And again, for the Clippers, the Clippers, I think, are pretty much the same team they were, but with a little more upside. Now, the Cavaliers are better with James Harden. Do I think they can beat the Celtics, Knicks, Pistons? Maybe, but if they get to the finals, the Thunder are killing them. The Nuggets are killing them. The Spurs are killing them. Yeah. So it's interesting. And like you said, I think it just speaks to James Harden is just tough. He's someone who is a very good player, but has so much obvious value. He's also easy to move. It's very much, it's like, imagine owning a great car and you own a bunch of cars and you have this one car that's really, really great. You'd love to drive that car every day, but you're in a situation where you need some money. You're in a situation where you need some flexibility. And that's the easiest car to move. That's James Harden. And I wish I could come with a better analogy, but like, if you're the Clippers, you would love to keep James Harden. He's a great player, but he's also the easiest one to move. He was also the easiest one to get a real asset for. So it's the tough part of being a really good player, but not a great player. You're not so great that the teams that have you never want to get rid of you, but you're good enough where there's always another team that wants you, and there's always someone that's willing to make an offer for you.
Yeah, so come on, guys. If you're gonna make fun of you, forgot James Harden, guys. Come on, I watch a lot of games. Sometimes players' names miss in my brain. But speaking of James Harden, though, I actually came to that same conclusion you did. Like, I understand what he said afterwards about loyalty and all that stuff. That stuff I fully understand. But this was James Harden. It's one of those things where it's like, I know at some point when he feels like things are not going his way, he's going to leave. I.e., Nets. He was on fucking with the Rockets at one point. So many teams where at some point, when it's not going his way, middle of the season, beginning of the season, end of the season, he's gone. He's just like my dad. He's out for milk. He's gone, right? But the issue here with James Harden is, I want to put this in from a Clippers point of view. They started 6-21, one of the worst ways to start a season. Then, actually, impressively, I will give them props. Probably have one of the best winning streaks comeback winning streaks we've seen in a very long time. 6-21 to end up 32-32. But keep in mind, guys, that is only primarily going to get them in the play-ins. Despite winning all that much, it's only going to get them in the play-ins. And keep in mind, from James Harden's point of view, you win all that much and you're just going to be in the play-ins. He's probably thinking to himself, I didn't get that money I wanted from them, and if we win this much, I'm only just going to be in the play-ins. I could see why he left. It was strategic, though.
So what I'll say is, I don't think that was his decision. I understand what you're saying about him being with the Nets, him being out with the Sixers. He wanted to move. I think this was a Clippers decision. I think the Clippers looked at the scenario and went, we can turn James Harden to Garland and some assets. Let's do it. I don't. And again, I'm not with James Harden every day. I'm not an NBA insider on the level of someone who could say something like this. But like, I didn't hear anything about James Harden asking to get out of that situation. I think, again, it was more of a spot where the Clippers looked at it, looked at where they are, looked at their situation and went, we can take James Harden, someone who we're not going to want to re-sign to a new contract in 2 years, and turn him into someone who's 10 years younger than him, and Darius Garland, who has some real upside, some other assets. We're not winning the championship this year, no matter what we do. Let's go. Let's get him out of here. Let's start moving towards the next phase.
Yeah, come on, I don't disagree with that. I'm just, because from the Clippers' point of view, I do agree. It was a Clippers decision when they're like, because them and making bad decisions just kind of goes hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly. All this winning doesn't really mean anything for them, guys. They're still going to be in the plans, guys. That's a good chance. They play one of those games, and they're just done. So all that comeback winning streak doesn't really technically matter if you're going to be out in the first round. And they're like, you know what? I guess we'll just shed some money, cut our losses, and just let him go. Because even he apparently, allegedly, let's say he asked for more money, and they're like, no. Well, to him, it's going to be like, well, if I'm just going to be in the plans, I might as well just trade this out for a better upside. Because on the Cavs.
Oh, yeah, Harden's definitely not upset he got traded. I'll absolutely say that. He's in a much better situation. But again, I think that was the Clippers' decision, not his.
Right. And, the Clippers and making bad decisions or good decisions. The Zubac one was so out of left field. I thought Zubac was one of the most underrated defenders in the league. He was very good. People say, well, he got traded to the Pacers. He's going to be on maternity leave and he won't be playing. It's like, who knows, honestly. A guy on maternity leave, guys, that's how that works. Women go on maternity leave, not men, okay? But, whatever floats you guys' boats these days. I don't know, because I like Zubac. It just sucks to see him on that situation right now. And you hope.
I think it's good for Zubac. I think he is the perfect fit for that Pacers team that everyone's forgot because, again, it's been a down year for them. They're going to get Halliburton back. They're going to probably get a top 5 pick. And Zubac, I think that's actually a great move for him.
All right. So any other team that we forgot to talk about? Oh, the Knicks. I know Stephen A. Smith's your best friend. What about the Knicks? You liking what's happening with the Knicks?
Maybe they can win the East. They're not winning the championship. It's one of those things where, from a basketball perspective, I love Jaylen Brunson. I love Karl-Anthony Towns, but those are two bad defenders. And in the playoffs, you can't have two bad defenders on the floor at all times. So I could see the Knicks finding a way to beat the Cavs, the Celtics, the Pistons, and get to the finals. And I think it'll be very similar to what we saw last year. Again, where maybe not last year, a couple years prior, where with the Celtics against the Mavericks really had no chance. I think whatever team comes out of the West, the Thunder, the Spurs, the Nuggets, I think those are really the three teams, and I'm really honing on the Thunder and the Spurs. I think those are the two teams. They're just going to blow away the Knicks. I like New York. It's a fun team. The league is better when the Knicks are good, and as a Sixers fan, it makes me sick to say that, but I think the Knicks are solid. They could definitely win the East. They're not winning the title.
Yeah, and also, you can't ever feel as bad as Dallas. Come on, guys. At one point, Dallas had Luka and Jaylen Brunson. They had them both and fought with them both. That actually takes skill. That legitimately, they could have had one of the best shooting teams of all time if they paired them with Anthony Davis pending healthy or all other stuff. Yeah, Luka and Jaylen Brunson, they're both. How? I just want to wonder, how does that happen? But keep in mind, tanking's a problem, guys. Not decision-making. Not their personal decision-making.
Well said.
Only tanking. But yes, as we're going to wind down the show, anything you want to let the audience know about before we head out? Any games to watch? Anything you're doing you want to let the people know about?
As always, find me in the Twitterverse, or I guess X it's called now, @_Noops. I do a lot of basketball content. DMs are always open. Happy to talk to people. Follow me there. You get to see everything I do. We are heading towards just a very exciting part of the season. Happy to help you guys understand basketball better. I help you to understand betting better. If you're someone that likes to bet on sports, bet at casinos, if there's anything you like to gamble on, feel free to slide into the DMs, ask me any questions you got. Always happy to talk about that stuff and just help you to be better at it. And it's always basketball season. I don't care whether the NBA is playing or not. Always happy to talk hoops.
Hell yeah. Hopefully we get a chance to do this next week or the following week, pending on, Noops getting sick and going on vacations. Good Lord.
There's always something.
Hey.
I promise you I'll never go out for milk, though, bud. Don't worry.
Oh, see, this thing is, I can't promise I'll make a bet in my life. Literally yesterday, maybe it was fate. Yesterday, I came home from the store. This lady was apparently gambling on her phone, and she was like, "Do you gamble?" I was like, I thought about it, but I never actually really pulled the trigger. Oh God, Noops is affecting my life. Good Lord, it's happening.
I'd love to talk to that lady.
She was just gambling on her phone with some slots or something. I was like,
It's a scary world where you can play slots on your phone. As somebody who loves to bet, I think it's something everyone should be able to do. I'm pretty sure you shouldn't have slot machines on your phones. I'll leave it at that.
But hey, she said she had an ex-husband. I didn't get her number. Oh God, just the opportunities just are always leaving me. It's always older white women that I attract in their 40s and 50s that are divorced. I don't know.
Again, I'm someone who generally, as a white man, I try not to comment on stuff like this, but I would say there's maybe something about the way you look that might be enticing to people like that who have maybe never dated anyone who looks the way you look.
And with that, thank you guys for checking out this episode of the Cloud9 podcast. Noops is right. I do agree. And hopefully we get a chance to do this next week or the week after that, talk about some NBA, and we'll see you guys on the next one.